Hey guys, Hugh Sheng here. Welcome to another Hugh Sheng Tutorials video. In this guide, we're going to be looking at this crazy composition, often called Broodlord Infestor, but I mean there's 8 unit types here, so we're going to be learning how to control group this composition, how to move it around, some spellcasting abilities, and probably some more stuff as well. Okay, so first thing I want to show you guys is a couple ways to control group this army. So we have 8 unit types here, but we're going to split it up into either 3 or 5 groups. And so if you're going to do 3, that's more of a beginner friendly setup. Whereas if we're going to do 5, that's a little more advanced. That'll give you a little more control, but of course it's going to be harder to control as well. So the first way I'm going to set this up is into 3 control groups. And so the way I've set it up here is the Broodlords are going to be by themselves. And in a second, I'm going to talk to you guys about some cool control group tips to help you maybe get some more keys, especially on the right side of your keyboard. But we'll talk about that in a second. So the way I've split this up is Broodlords by themselves, Vipers, Corruptors, Overseers in their own control group. And this is going to be sort of our anti-air group. So all these units are going to be moving around together, taking out air units, maybe pulling them in with the Vipers, casting the Parasitic Bomb, and then you'll be target firing with your Corruptors most often. So I'll have these guys all in one control group. I'm going to use my 0, which might seem far, but you'll see in a second. And then this last group, or if you're more advanced, we're going to split this up into 3. But if you're a beginner, we're going to do just all this in one group. So your main army, in this case, Roach Hydra, but this could be like Zergling Baneling or Roach Ravager, or basically just whatever you have that's, not super microable. You can put on, one group if you're advanced, or together with these if you are more of a beginner. And by more of a beginner, I mean like diamond or below. So basically like everyone who's not like super crazy advanced into Starcraft, you can just put them all these on one control group. And so you'll be able to use your queens for transfuse if you want, or you can just leave these out often, to be honest. And then your infestors. So for a beginner, your army might look like this. So we have these 3 control groups to move around, which might seem difficult for some people, but in a second I'm going to show you guys a pretty nice trick just to make it easier to move around. But first, I want to show you guys how you can set up some of these control groups. Like I'm using tilde, or I'm using 0 and 8 right now, but I'm not actually using 0 and 8. So if you guys want to go to options, options, hotkeys, global, and then control groups, you can scroll down a little bit and you can see that my control group 8 is actually set as Q. So I'm not reaching on the right side of my keyboard to press 8, I'm just clicking the Q button. And then for 9, I'm using tab. And for 10, I guess it says 0 here, but I'm using the button on the right side here, which is the tilde button. Actually, it's not the tilde that it shows here, but I'm using the tilde button, which is to the left of the 1. And so these 3 control groups, 8, 9, 0, are my tilde tab Q buttons. So they're way on the left side, which makes them super easy to press. And you're probably not using those keys already. So if you want, you can change these over, and then that's going to give you more access to easier to press control groups. Obviously, 890 is super unrealistic to press, so consider that. Okay, and now for moving this army around, we're basically going to move command these guys onto the Broodlords. Because if you're moving your army around right now, you're going to have to use 3 control groups every time you move it. So if you're running back and forth across the map, that's going to get super tedious. So we don't want to do that. So instead of doing that, we're going to move command each of these control groups onto a Broodlord. And then no matter if they stop or whatever, they're just going to keep following the Broodlords. And we can do this with this army as well. So, I mean, it's pretty stacked, obviously, is one downside, but you're not going to use this during battles. You're only going to use this when you are, trying to macro and reposition your army before you get into an engagement. So we can move around like this, and then once you get into an engagement, you can easily, you know, separate this how you want, get the Broodlords attacking, get your main army below a little bit, and control it however you want. Okay, so that's how you're going to split it up and move it around. And then that should be good for control groups and movement. So let's talk a little bit about some of the spell casting. Let's actually erase these for now. We'll come back to this army in a second. But first, let's look at just some basic unit control. And we'll talk about some of the mistakes I see here as well. Some pretty common mistakes. So we have these Archons, and you have some Infestors. So what I see a lot is coming up and just like casting from pretty far away with one click. Let me just hold position these. And this is okay if you want to shoot them like this. But oftentimes what happens is Protoss isn't going to just sit here, and they are going to attack you. And so if you're, you know, casting like this, then you're easily going to get a lot of hits on your Infestors. So you don't want to do that usually. And let me show you a slightly better technique, not the best one, but a slightly better one, is where you try to guess the range or estimate the range of your Infestors and then move command them after they shoot. So something like this. And this is pretty good. There's like a lot of GMs use this technique. They've just gotten really used to, you know, how far the Infestors can shoot. You might have noticed right there I actually just misclicked. Like something like, let's see if I can misclick on purpose. Maybe something like that. And you see how the Infestor moved but it didn't shoot? And that's because I guessed the range wrong. So then my Infestor spells aren't going to go off. And so there's a slightly better way that, I mean, I don't think a lot of GMs are using this, but it's significantly better. So they should be. And basically what you want to do is, well, it only works in some situations. So you probably have to use the Infestors like that most often, but if you are running away, so in this case, if you're running away, what you can do is fungal and then shift move away. So that'll look like this. So we're moving away, we fungal and shift. And so that way the range, you know, where the Archons can hit them is a little bit less because he's instantly moving away. So you fungal and shift away, and then bam, the Infestors stay at a nice range, and the fungal always gets cast. It'll never not get cast because you are activating the fungal and shifting the next move. The only downside is that you can't do this if you're moving towards the enemy, so you got to be really careful how you do the technique. So if they're coming at you and you're moving here and you try to shift it, they're going to hit that move command first. So that's the only problem, is you just got to be really careful of where you're moving. But as long as it's away, then they're going to execute the fungal like this properly. Okay, so that's it for Infestors. The next thing I want to show you guys is transfuse. Actually, you know, we can do this with Infestors too. So the next thing I want to show you guys is how you're casting the multiple abilities. So the most common way I see people messing this up is they're clicking fungal, like F, each time they fungal. So they're gonna, let's hold position these again. So they're gonna press F and left click, F, left click. Be honest with yourself if you're doing this, because this is an easy way to mess things up. Like for example, if we're fungaling and then we, you know, don't press the F key before we left click, then you can easily select their Archon. And so the problem here is now you've, you know, lost control of your Infestors and you might not realize right away. And so this can cause problems in a battle where, you know, you're fungaling and then you left click and you're trying to move your Infestors here, but they're not moving. And then by the time you realize you've lost, you know, 2 or 3 Infestors. So the correct way to do this is to just hold down the F key and not click it each time. Which kind of, you need to train your brain, because you're thinking, I want to cast one fungal here and then another one here, but you actually just need to hold it down and then left click as many times as you want, and they'll just continue to cast. Now, obviously you wouldn't want to throw down that many fungals, but that's how you'll do it instead. So that might look something like this in a main engagement, where you just hold it down and left click, left click. So what I'm going to show you guys now is, you know, one way to maybe approach this type of army, this Protoss army, super difficult to deal with, or at least most people think it is. But I'm going to show you guys some ways to do this. And I'm not sure if this is the best way, to be honest, because my Zerg there's definitely lots of mistakes I'm making with Zerg, but I think you guys will get some clues as to how to deal with it here. And this does work. We have a little bit more army, but the supply is roughly equal, so we should be able to win this fight if you micro well, and not if Protoss micro is better. So it's pretty close. Okay, so basically what you want to do is you're gonna notice what happens with the AI is that the Broodlords will not actually get attacked if you are in the right position, or at least not very much, because the Broodlords do not attack the air units, and so they're not really going to cause any aggression. So the Void Rays and the carriers won't really attack them. The Archons will, but the carriers and the Void Rays will not. And so what you can do is have your Broodlords kind of lead, and the other units will just kind of ignore them, as long as your units are close enough that the Void Ray carrier is going to attack them instead, or try to attack them instead. Okay, and so what we can do is just lead these guys in front, A move to not even touch them, and then focus most of our attention on the Infestors, and a little bit of attention on the Viper Corruptor. And what we're going to do is use this technique that I showed you earlier, the shift queuing, to make sure that we have enough attention to do everything. Okay, so let's see how this looks. So we're going to start the battle, actually I missed something. We're going to start the battle with a lot of fungal growth, and we're not going to focus on the carriers. So you might think that the carriers are the thing we want to kill in this army. The carriers are the last thing we want to kill. We want to make sure all these support units are dead, so the Void Rays and the Archons. So Broodlords are going to take care of the Archons. We're going to use fungal growth, and we're going to use parasitic bomb against the Void Rays. And then as soon as the Void Rays are dead, our Corruptors are going to kill the carriers. And Corruptors actually milk carriers. Maybe I should show you that first, actually, so you guys believe me. Okay, so let's get the carriers by themselves here. And let's grab our Corruptors. And let's just shift queue these carriers. And I mean, as long as you shift queue, if you just A move, of course they're going to hit the interceptors, but as long as you're shift queuing these carriers, the Corruptors are actually going to destroy them, like really hard. So the carriers are not really the main threat, exactly. So we just need to take care of the other units first, the Void Rays specifically, so that the Corruptors can do their job. So how this is going to look is we're going to separate into the control groups I showed you, and we're just going to have our Broodlords kind of chilling here. And so once you see this army on creep, you're going to want to start getting some preemptive fungals if you can. So that'll look something like this. Maybe use the shift technique if you want. Try to get more of the Void Rays than the Archons. And then, let me pause it here. So during this battle, once they start getting in close, this is where you want to activate the parasitic bomb. So to do that, you're going to use your Corruptor key. You're not going to use the Corruptors yet though. But what you're going to do is you're going to use the parasitic bomb and then shift click the Corruptors away so they're not in the battle. Not sure if those are... yeah, they were hotkey. Okay, good. Keep fungling the Void Rays mostly. And then at the end of the battle, now it's over, bring in the Corruptors and take out the Void Rays. Or the carriers, rather. I should take out this Void Ray first, actually. And then take out the carrier. This is actually probably my worst controlled fight of this whole session. I did this like 5-6 times before, just so I make sure I get all the parts correct for you guys. And yeah, this is definitely the worst. So I'm gonna do this again right after and show you guys. This is gonna go way better. But even here, we're winning pretty convincingly, and we kept all of our Broodlords, which is really important. And kind of funny considering the Broodlords should probably have been the first thing to die in this battle, but like I said, they just don't get targeted. So as long as you have your Infestors close by, those are going to be the units that are actually getting shot at. Okay, let's try this again. I think the reason it didn't go super well is because I was mostly fungling the Archons, which is good, but it's much better to fungal the Void Rays. shift those away. Why are these guys not attacking? More fungos on those voids. Okay, the voids are all done. So now we can target carriers. And yeah, this time you can see it went significantly better. Quite happy with this fight, actually. And so, yeah, I don't think fighting these Protoss armies is as difficult as people make it seem. Like, it's not an easy skill for sure. There's a lot of stuff going on. But if you can prioritize the order correctly, that's going to make it a lot easier. So let me do this a couple more times so you guys can see what's really going on and the ordering. But hopefully this is helping. And so this time what I want to do is really focus on the Vipers during this fight, because it might seem like I'm doing, you know, two things at once, but I'm really not. Okay, so when I aim move these guys over, I'm gonna switch the priority at some point. So right now the priority is fungal. Maybe aim move these Broodlords. Fungaling. So I'm only fungaling. I'm not doing multiple things. It might look like I'm controlling Broodlords, but I'm not. I'm just fungaling. And then right here, my priorities shift. Right? And so now I'm using Parasitic Bomb and controlling Corruptors. This isn't going to go as well for sure because I didn't use the Parasitic Bombs as early. But so you can see there my priorities shifted, and I'm only controlling this set of units now. I'm not controlling the Infestors anymore. So I'm really only controlling one unit type at a time. So I'm not multitasking at all. The only thing you have to make sure of, you know, is that your control groups are set up properly so you can switch easily. You don't have to like select these units with control click or something, because that's not gonna work. So before the fight you have to really make sure you have these all set up properly, and then during the fight you have to know when to switch your priority. And the way this works is you want to switch the priority once you kind of run out of fungal almost. So this is a period where I haven't really got a lot of room to micro. In the previous fights I had more time. But now we can switch our focus, launch down the Parasitic Bombs, maybe wait till those run out even. You know, and then engage the Corruptors, or the Carriers rather. Let's target these Voids first, instead of the ones doing the most damage. And then the Carriers, and so there you go. So the priority is shifted, and we're not doing as much as you might think watching the battle. It's not actually as complicated. So just focus on one unit type at a time. Use your shift commands if you can. And that should help a lot with these battles. You can even launch these Parasitic Bombs early, I suppose. Like you could start the fight with the Parasitic Bomb and shift away. But I think the Vipers will get targeted a little bit. Not bad. Okay, cool. So hopefully this helped. I gave you a couple ideas, the control groups, the move commanding, and this should make Broodlord Infestor easier to control, I hope. If there's something I missed, you guys have some questions, make sure to leave them in the comments and I'll be sure to respond. And if you like the video, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.